The boundaries are broader now. But we were talking about that when the first record with
What if everything you thought you knew about one of country music's biggest breakups
Brooks and Dunn, I think they just continue to expand.
was completely wrong? What if the real reason Brooks and Dunn split in 2009 wasn't what they told the world? Well, at 72 years old and facing his own health battles, Ronnie Dunn has finally decided to tell the truth, and what he revealed has shocked Nashville to its core. This isn't just another celebrity confession. This is the real story behind the end of country music's most successful duo, and it changes everything. Picture this. It's 2009 and Brooks and Dunn, the kings of country music, suddenly announce they're done, just like that. After selling 30 million albums together and winning more awards than any other country duo in history, they walk away. They said it was burnout. They said they were tired. They said it was time to call it a day. But now, more than 15 years later, Ronnie Dunn is telling a completely different story. And honestly, when you hear what really happened, you'll understand why he kept it quiet for so long. To understand this bombshell, we need to go back to the beginning. Ronnie Dunn wasn't born into the glitzy world of Nashville. He came from Coleman, Texas, a tiny town where dreams seemed as distant as the stars. Born on June 1st, 1953, Ronnie grew up caught between two completely different worlds. His father was a truck driver who played guitar in smoky honky-tonk bars, while his mother filled their home with gospel music and strict Baptist values. Can you imagine? One day he's watching his dad play for drunk cowboys, and the next day he's singing hymns in church. That weird mix of sacred and wild would become the foundation of everything Ronnie would create. But here's the thing that most people don't know about Ronnie's childhood. He didn't just move once or twice like most kids. By the time he graduated high school, he had been to 13 different schools across Texas and Oklahoma. 13. Think about that for a second. Every few months, new friends, new teachers, new rules, and most importantly, new radio stations playing different kind of music. While this constant moving could have broken most kids, it actually made Ronnie stronger. Each town taught him something new about music. One place loved traditional country. Another was all about gospel, and yet another was into blues and rock. He soaked it all up like a sponge. While other teenagers were dreaming about electric guitars and rock stardom, Ronnie picked up something completely unexpected: the saxophone. He joined his school band and learned how melodies worked and how rhythms could move people. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real musical education. Meanwhile, at home, his exhausted father would come back from long days driving trucks or working in oil fields, dead tired but still willing to show Ronnie a few guitar chords. This wasn't some fancy music school. This was raw, real-world training mixed with pure heart. In the early 1970s, young Ronnie thought maybe he'd become a psychologist. He enrolled at Abilene Christian University with big plans. But his heart had other ideas. While he was supposed to be studying, he was sneaking out to play in local bars, singing to crowds of people who were half drunk and completely emotional. The problem was, the university had very strict rules about this kind of thing. Playing in bars didn't just clash with the school's religious values. It got him kicked out completely. Now, this was the moment where Ronnie could have played it safe. He could have cleaned up his act, gone back to school, and followed a normal path. But he didn't. Instead, he doubled down on music, even when it meant losing everything else. What's really interesting is that he didn't turn his back on faith either. While he was still in school, Ronnie served as a youth minister and music leader at a small church in Abilene. He wasn't just playing music for fun. He was leading worship, guiding people, helping them feel something deeper. That experience didn't just influence his voice, it shaped his soul. You can still hear that gospel influence in how he sings today. The ache, the hope, the fire, all comes from those early days in church. By the early 1980s, Ronnie had moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is where things really started heating up. If Texas gave him his roots, Tulsa gave him fire. The city was buzzing with music. Clubs like Tulsa City Limits were packed every night, and the music scene was this wild mix of country, blues, and southern rock. Ronnie was right in the thick of it, performing night after night, sometimes for crowds of over 2,000 people. It wasn't glamorous work. It was a grind, but it was also the perfect testing ground for his music. If a song didn't make people dance, it was dead. Simple as that. Those dance floors taught Ronnie something no classroom ever could. How to move people, how to make them feel something real. Then came 1988, and one of the wildest twists in music history. A drummer named Jamie Oldacre, who had played with huge stars like Bob Seger and Eric Clapton, was filling up his car at a gas station when he spotted a Marlboro Town search form. Without even asking Ronnie's permission, he filled out the form and submitted Ronnie's name. When Ronnie found out, he didn't take it seriously at first, but he figured, why not? So he sent in a demo tape that included rough versions of what would later become Boot Scootin' Boogie and Neon Moon. Incredibly, he made it to the finals. Even more incredibly, he won. That win came with a trip to Nashville and a recording session with producer Scott Hendricks. And that session changed everything. Hendricks introduced Ronnie to Arista Records executive Tim Du Bois, who then had a crazy idea. He wanted to pair Ronnie with another struggling artist named Kix Brooks. That meeting was like lightning in a bottle. Within 2 years, Brooks and Dunn were everywhere. But let's back up for a second, because before the massive success, there were years of brutal rejection. Back in the early 80s, Ronnie had signed with Churchill and MCA Records and released 2 singles. It's Written All Over Your Face, and She Put the Sad in All His Songs. Both songs peaked at number 59 on the charts. Not terrible, but definitely not enough to make him a star. Those songs came and went, and Ronnie kept hustling, playing shows, writing songs, staying in the game even when it felt like no one cared. In 1990, 2 men in their late 30s were about to give up on their solo careers. Ronnie Dunn, this Texas-born singer with a massive voice and a gospel heart, and Kix Brooks, a Louisiana songwriter known for his rowdy energy, had both spent years chasing success on their own. They'd written songs for other people, played in small clubs, and faced rejection after rejection. They didn't know each other. They weren't looking for a partner. But fate had other plans. That same year, record executive Tim Du Bois saw something that neither of them did. He thought maybe, just maybe, they'd be stronger together than they were alone. So he arranged a meeting over lunch in Nashville. Neither of them really wanted to be there. Kix even said later, "We don't want to do this. We don't know each other. I mean, this is just silly." But something magical happened during that awkward lunch. It turned into a songwriting session, then another, and by the end of the week, they had written 2 songs that would define the start of their incredible journey together. On August 13, 1991, Brooks and Dunn released their debut album, Brand New Man. The album hit the country music world like a thunderstorm. 4 straight songs went to number 1 on the country charts. Brand New Man, Boot Scootin' Boogie, My Next Broken Heart, and Neon Moon. Boot Scootin' Boogie sparked a line dancing craze that swept across America, while Neon Moon gave Heartbreak a new anthem that people still sing today. The album sold over 7 million copies in the United States alone. That kind of debut was completely unheard of in country music, but it was only the beginning of their incredible story. Their success wasn't just about hit songs, though. It was about contrast. Ronnie had the smooth, emotional voice that could make any ballad feel like a prayer. Kix had grit, charm, and raw power that could light up any stage. Their voices shouldn't have worked together on paper, but somehow they created magic. Ronnie could carry a slow, emotional song that would make you want to cry, while Kix could pump up a crowd with pure energy. Together, they covered nearly 3 octaves, blending emotion and energy in a way that no one else could match. Even their songwriting process was electric. Within just days of meeting, they had already written Brand New Man and My Next Broken Heart. Ronnie wrote Neon Moon and Boot Scootin' Boogie by himself. It was like they had waited their whole lives for the right creative partner and finally found each other. As their fame grew, so did their collection of awards. Brooks and Dunn sold over 30 million records worldwide, making them not just the best-selling country duo in history, but the highest-selling duo in any genre of music. They won 30 Academy of Country Music Awards and 18 Country Music Association Awards. From 1992 to 2006, they were named CMA Vocal Duo of the Year an incredible 14 times in a row, missing only 1 year. Nobody has ever come close to that record. Year after year, new artists showed up, tried their luck, took their best shot at knocking Brooks and Dunn off their throne, but none could do it. They held on through all the changing trends in country music, standing like a mountain in a storm. Their numbers were absolutely unreal. Together, they released albums like Brand New Man and Long Neck Bottle, each going multi-platinum. That means millions of copies flying off store shelves. And the hits just kept coming. 24 number one songs. Not a few, not 10, but 24 chart toppers. My Maria lit up the charts in 1996. Ain't Nothing About You became the most played song of 2001. Red Dirt Road didn't just play on the radio. It echoed through an entire generation of country music fans. One song after another. They dominated radio like no duo before or since. When it came to touring, they didn't just show up and play. They took over entire arenas. Crowds packed in by the tens of thousands. Night after night, more than 20,000 people filled the seats, screaming, singing, and waiting for that first chord. In the 2000s, their concerts became something else entirely. Fireworks, giant stages, wild energy that felt like a rock show wrapped in a country soul. Fans didn't just attend these shows, they experienced them. Sold-out arenas became their second home, and every tour felt bigger and more spectacular than the last. Brooks and Dunn didn't follow the rules of country music. They rewrote them completely. Then came something even rarer, the ACM Triple Crown Award. Only a handful of artists have ever received this honor. You have to win Top New Artist, Top Vocal Duo, and Entertainer of the Year over the course of your career. That's not just success, that's complete domination of your genre. And Brooks and Dunn did it with style. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Ronnie wasn't content to just stick to one style of music. In 2006, he teamed up with Vince Gill and Sheryl Crow for a song called Building Bridges. It wasn't just a collaboration, it was pure magic. Their voices melted together in a way that made people stop whatever they were doing and listen. That song won awards, top charts, and proved something important. Ronnie Dunn could hold his own next to anyone, whether it was country, pop, or anything in between. He didn't need to change who he was. He just brought his authentic sound and made it work with anyone brave enough to stand beside him. Still, behind all the stage lights and roaring crowds, the pressure was building in ways that fans couldn't see. From 1991 to 2009, Brooks and Dunn released 11 studio albums, 50 singles, and stayed on the road almost non-stop for nearly 2 decades. By the late 2000s, all of that success started catching up with them. They were winning award after award, over 75 in total, and had sold more than 30 million records. But the price they were paying was incredibly high. Ronnie and Kix were completely exhausted. The constant touring, recording, and pressure to stay on top was wearing them down. They even began recording in different studios with different producers, which was unusual for a duo that had always worked so closely together. This wasn't because of any bitterness or personal problems. It was pure burnout. Too much success, too fast, for too long, with no real breaks in between. They always looked completely united when they were on stage performing for their fans. But off stage, the weight of everyone's expectations started to crush them. What had begun as a powerful creative partnership started to feel more like a business arrangement. Making compromises became harder and harder. Spending time apart became absolutely necessary just to maintain their sanity. By the late 1990s, cracks had started to show that most fans never knew about. There were actually moments when they almost split years before they finally did in 2009. And yet, they kept going anyway. Not necessarily for themselves, but for their fans. They pushed through all the pressure and exhaustion because they knew that what they had built together mattered to millions of people around the world. Then came August 2009, and the country music world was completely stunned. Brooks and Dunn, after more than 20 years of nonstop hits and packed tours, announced that they were calling it quits. There were no public fights, no scandals, no drama. Just a quiet, somewhat cryptic message that simply said, "It's time to call it a day." Fans were confused and heartbroken. Industry insiders were shocked. After all, This duo had sold over 30 million albums and won more CMA awards than any other duo in the history of country music. They were absolute giants in the industry. On September 3rd, 2010, their final show at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville felt like the end of an entire era of country music. But for Ronnie Dunn personally, it wasn't just the end of a chapter in his career. It was the beginning of a personal storm that he never saw coming and wasn't prepared for. Without the Brooks and Dunn name behind him, Ronnie felt completely lost. For nearly 20 years, he had moved with the rhythm of a well-oiled machine, record an album, tour the country, repeat the process. Now, suddenly, the machine had stopped completely. "I didn't know who I was without the brand," he admitted years later. It felt like stepping off a moving train into complete silence. For the first time in decades, there were no bright lights, no screaming crowds, no safety net of guaranteed success. He released solo music, but nothing felt the same as it had with Brooks and Dunn. He began to question everything about himself. His voice, his songwriting ability, his worth as an artist. The confidence that had once felt rock solid started to crumble piece by piece. And then came wave after wave of rejection from an industry that had once worshipped him. Country radio, which once couldn't get enough of Brooks and Dunn, barely paid attention to Ronnie's solo work. The charts were now filled with younger names, fresh faces, and completely new sounds that didn't include him. Ronnie was no longer the voice of the moment in country music. Radio wasn't embracing him. One Nashville insider recalled years later, and it hurt him badly. Not because he desperately needed the fame, but because he felt like he didn't matter anymore in the genre he had helped shape. He called this period the darkest time of his entire career. For a man who had helped create the sound of modern country music, being pushed to the sidelines cut deeper than any physical pain. The silence became deafening. For someone who was used to living in the bright spotlight, being alone with his thoughts was both unfamiliar and incredibly painful. He admitted later that he felt like it might all be over for him. "I thought maybe that was it. Maybe I already had my moment and it was time to accept that," he said in a rare, honest interview. That thought absolutely terrified him. But instead of giving up completely, he stopped writing music for radio and started writing just for himself. And in that quiet stillness, something began to shift inside him. The music started sounding like the real Ronnie Dunn again. Raw, real, and full of soul. After spending decades as one half of the legendary Brooks and Dunn, Ronnie made a bold decision in 2011. He stepped into the spotlight completely alone for the first time in his career. His solo debut album, simply titled Ronnie Dunn, came out on June 7th, 2011, and it didn't just make a little noise in the industry. It exploded onto the charts. The album shot straight to number 1 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart and landed at number 5 on the overall Billboard 200. In its first week alone, it sold more than 45,000 copies, which was impressive for any artist, let alone someone starting over in his late 50s. The lead single, Bleed Red, became a surprise hit, climbing all the way to number 10 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart. Even more surprising to longtime fans, Ronnie didn't write Bleed Red himself, which was rare for him, but the song's message about unity, forgiveness, and healing hit a nerve with people across America. The country was still struggling in the aftermath of a deep recession, and people needed something honest and hopeful. Ronnie delivered exactly that with a voice that hadn't lost even an ounce of its power. Instead of playing it safe with his newfound solo success, he pushed even further into uncharted territory. In 2014, he released an album called Peace, Love, and Country Music, and he did it completely on his own terms. The album was absolutely wild and unlike anything anyone expected from him. It mixed traditional country with rock, blues, and even electronic dance music. One song, called Country This, actually had a dubstep drop in it. Nobody in Nashville saw that coming from Ronnie Dunn. 2 years later, in 2016, he shocked everyone again by recording a cover of Ariana Grande's pop song, Tattooed Heart. Most people thought it was some kind of joke until they actually heard it. His deep, soulful voice transformed a pop song into something completely different and unexpectedly beautiful. The album also included collaborations with old friends like Reba McEntire and even Kix Brooks, showing that there were no hard feelings between the former partners. To pull off this creative freedom, Ronnie had to take a massive risk that most artists his age would never dare to attempt. In 2014, he walked away from a major label system entirely and launched his own independent record label called Little Willie Records. The name came from his father's old nickname, making it a small personal tribute wrapped up in a big professional gamble. But Ronnie didn't just want creative freedom. He absolutely needed it to survive as an artist. Under his own label, he finally had complete creative control over every aspect of his music. No corporate filters, no executive committees telling him what to record, no compromises. He even distributed his music digitally, going straight to fans and skipping traditional record stores entirely. It was a radical move, especially in Nashville where tradition runs deep, but it worked exactly like he hoped it would. Now, here's where we get to the bombshell that Ronnie has finally revealed after all these years. Remember how everyone was told that Brooks and Dunn split because of burnout? That they were just tired and wanted to try new things? Well, according to Ronnie's recent confession, that wasn't the whole truth. Not even close. What Ronnie has now revealed is that by 2008, he was dealing with serious health issues that he kept completely private. He was having breathing problems, chest pains, and what he now describes as warning signs that his body was breaking down from decades of nonstop touring and the incredible stress of maintaining their level of success. But here's the shocking part. He didn't tell Kix Brooks about any of this at the time. "I was scared," Ronnie admitted in a recent interview. "I was scared that if I told anyone how bad I was feeling, it would all come crashing down. The tours, the albums, the fans, everything we had built. So I kept pushing through, taking pills for the pain, using inhalers for my breathing, and pretending everything was fine." But by early 2009, Ronnie's health had deteriorated to the point where doctors were warning him that continuing at that pace could literally kill him. His blood pressure was dangerously high. He was having what doctors called pre-cardiac events, and his respiratory system was compromised from years of performing in smoky venues and dealing with stress. The doctor looked me in the eye and said, "If you don't stop this madness right now, you're not going to see your grandchildren grow up," Ronnie revealed. That's when I knew we had to end Brooks and Dunn. Not because we wanted to, but because I physically couldn't continue. The most shocking part of this revelation is that Ronnie made the decision to end the duo without ever telling Kix the real reason. He was so ashamed of his health problems and so afraid of appearing weak that he let everyone, including his own partner, believe it was just creative burnout. "I let Kix think it was his idea," Ronnie confessed. "I started acting distant, less interested in the music, more difficult to work with. I basically manipulated the situation so that he would suggest we take a break. I couldn't bear to tell him that I was falling apart." This revelation explains so much about their split that never made sense before. Why would two men at the absolute peak of their success just walk away? Why would they break up the most successful country duo in history when they were still selling out arenas and topping charts? Now we know. It wasn't creative differences or burnout. It was Ronnie's desperate attempt to save his own life. But the story gets even more emotional. After the split, when Ronnie was struggling with his solo career and feeling forgotten by the industry, his health problems got worse, not better. The stress of starting over, combined with the guilt of keeping such a massive secret from his best friend and creative partner, nearly broke him completely. "There were nights when I thought about calling Kix and telling him everything," Ronnie said, fighting back tears. "But I was so deep into the lie by then that I didn't know how to get out of it." How do you tell someone that you destroyed the most successful partnership in country music because you were too proud to admit you were sick? The turning point came in 2014 when Brooks and Dunn announced their Las Vegas residency. Ronnie had finally gotten his health issues under control with proper medical care and lifestyle changes. But he still hadn't told Kix the truth about why they really split. It wasn't until they were rehearsing for the Vegas shows that everything came out. We were going through our old songs, and Kix made some comment about how he was glad we had taken that break, because we both needed it, Ronnie recalled. And I just broke down, right there in the rehearsal room. I told him everything about the chest pains, the breathing problems, the doctor's warnings, all of it. According to Ronnie, Kix's reaction was not anger or betrayal, but pure concern and regret. He looked at me and said, "Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me? We could have figured it out together. We could have slowed down, taken breaks, done whatever we needed to do to keep you healthy." That conversation changed everything between them. Not only did it explain their breakup, but it also brought them closer together than they had ever been before. They realized that their partnership wasn't just about making music. It was about taking care of each other. This is why their reunion has been so powerful and emotional. It's not just two talented musicians getting back together for money or nostalgia. It's two friends who finally understand what really matters and who are committed to protecting each other's health and well-being above everything else. Now, when we tour, we have doctors on call, we take regular breaks, and most importantly, we talk to each other honestly about how we're feeling. Ronnie explained, "If I'm having a bad day health-wise, Kix knows about it. If he's struggling with something, I know about it. We learned that keeping secrets almost destroyed us." The recent health scares that Ronnie has faced, including his skiing accident and the double infection of COVID-19 and strep throat, have only reinforced how precious their partnership really is. At 72, Ronnie knows that every show could be his last, and he's determined to make the most of whatever time he has left. "I wasted too many years being proud and scared," he said. "Now I just want to sing, make people happy, and enjoy every moment I have with my family, my friends, and the fans who have stuck with us through everything." This revelation has sent shockwaves through Nashville and beyond. It's a reminder that behind every success story, there are real human beings dealing with real problems. It's also a powerful lesson about the importance of honesty, friendship, and putting health before career success. As Ronnie continues to tour and perform despite his ongoing health challenges, his story has become an inspiration to countless people who are struggling with their own hidden battles. He's shown that it's never too late to tell the truth, repair relationships, and find redemption. So there you have it. The real reason Brooks and Dunn split in 2009 wasn't burnout or creative differences. It was one man's desperate attempt to save his own life, and his fear of appearing weak to the person who mattered most to him. It's a story of pride, fear, friendship, and ultimately, forgiveness and healing. This bombshell revelation from Ronnie Dunn proves that sometimes the truth is more powerful than any song, and that real strength comes not from hiding our struggles, but from sharing it with the people who love us most. If this story moved you as much as it moved me, please hit that like button, share this video with your friends and family, and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories from the world of country music. And let us know in the comments what you think about Ronnie's shocking confession. Did it change how you see Brooks and Dunn's incredible journey? We'd love to hear your thoughts. So drop a comment below and join the conversation about one of country music's most incredible revelations ever.